Hey, this is Mr. Tinker, and I'm gonna show you guys how to change the tires on an Audi A4. And this would probably apply to most German cars. So here's the tools that you'll most likely need. You'll want some sort of just like a mid-size ratchet, preferably 1/2 inch. And then you're gonna want a long breaker bar, a flathead screwdriver, and then a torque wrench, and then a pry bar, and then whatever socket fits on your lug nuts. And then when you go to jack the car up, you want to, I found that works best is the little pinch welds right along here, right here, is probably the best place to lift a real low car like this. And then when you go to lift the car, just lift the car up to where your tire is maybe about a finger's length off the ground. It's gonna make it a lot easier when you gotta put the tire back on. So first thing we do is we grab the screwdriver, and this may or may not apply to your vehicle, but it does on mine. I just have this like little cap in front of my lug nuts. You just kind of gently pry on the edges a little bit. I mean, you gotta just be gentle with it. I mean, it will come out. Just slowly pry on each end of it. And don't worry if these little circular pieces on the inside come off, because I'm going to show you something that's a neat design with these German cars, or at least an Audi and probably a Volkswagen. So as you can see, these little circular pieces came off that little plastic lug, whatever you want to call it, lug protector, whatever. Basically, what's cool about these is, so you got these like little tabs right here, and then you got little tabs in here, and basically all you got to do is just line these back up, and then just kind of push it in. I mean, yeah, there we go. And it kind of just goes back into place. Maybe they're probably directional. Nope. Well, they are directional, but meaning they don't only go in one way. Okay, so that is that, and then once I get this done, I'll show you my method of pulling the tires off. Okay, so I lifted the car up, and you can see there's just a small amount of room between the tire and the ground, and that's kind of what you want. I mean, that's what I found is the easiest. And then what I found is, if you first, before you lift it up, put the parking brake on, and then what I do is I put a piece of wood behind the tire before they lift it. That way you don't have any issue with it maybe rolling. And so first what I do is I take the breaker bar and then I break all these lug nuts loose, and then I take the smaller one and then I just twist them off. I don't prefer to use an impact gun on my car. Normally, you should not use an impact on a car or a truck, but obviously there's people that do it. I have done it on not necessarily cars and trucks, but I've done it on trailers and heavy machinery and stuff. So I mean, I'm not saying I don't do it. I'm just saying it's not the best thing to be doing. So I'm gonna start loosening these. I'm gonna just start loosening up these lug nuts. And just be a little patient with me. I'm doing this one-handed. So I'm gonna set my phone down real quick. Okay, so I've got those lug nuts pulled off, and I don't know if you guys know about this, about the German cars. Pretty much, at least my Audi, I don't know if any European cars have this too. Other European cars have this. But my Audi does not have lug nuts. It has lug studs. Or bolts. So yeah, that's why I don't like having the tire up very high, because they're kind of tricky to get in if you don't have it, if you're not holding the tire in almost exactly the right spot, because you gotta hold the tire up while you're putting the lug nuts or lug bolts in. So I'll show you how to pull the tire off. This is it can be a little tricky. I mean, it's not, you don't pull it off. It's not exactly the same as just pulling the tire off of any other vehicle. So when you do it, you just kind of grab it from the back and then just pull it out. But it kind of like, it's on the ground and like right in front of it, so you just kind of drag it out. And then that's yeah, and so you see the lug bolts, I just screw into the hub right there. Interesting design. I'm not a fan of the design, but it's an interesting design. So I'm gonna grab my other tire, and then I'll start showing you what I do to put it on. Okay, so I got my other tire, and I'll show you my method of getting it on. So what I do is I just take a pry bar. I mean, you don't necessarily, you want something to try to be able to pry with, at least in my experience. And so I'm gonna try to set my phone down in an angle where you can probably kind of watch. And so basically what I want to do first is make sure I got my holes lined up, and then kind of hit my tire up. Okay. And get that hole lined up, and then try to get a nut in there. Take your wrench and try to put it on. May not look like it, but I got the other side on a lot easier than this. Oh my God. Okay, finally got that one on. So, what most people will tell you, or most mechanics will tell you, is when you're putting lug nuts on, you want to tighten them in a star pattern. You can do that when you're starting to actually tighten it down, but you don't necessarily need to do that just to get them like on, and just get them on, and then once you start actually tightening down, then you can start putting them on in a star pattern. And the one reason why a lot of people shouldn't use impact guns on lug nuts is it usually, a lot of times what happens is either someone will get it on crooked, the lug nut on crooked, and then just zap it on and ruin all the threads, and a lot of times once that nut hits the wheel and you got a pretty powerful impact gun, that impact gun might just spin the bolt and just shear the threads off the studs. And so here I'm starting to do a star pattern because I'm actually starting to get them all tightened down a bit. And then always check for your torque specs for lug nuts, because if you don't have your tires torqued properly, obviously they will probably fall off, or they might stay on, but you might lose like 1 or 2 lug nuts. Because I've seen plenty of videos, or even working at my uncle's shop, I've seen it where people haven't torqued wheels properly and they have missing lug nuts. And whatever you do, do not use any type of Loctite on a lug nut. Okay, so that is now as tight as I'm gonna get it with that wrench. And so now grab your torque wrench and depending on if it's a click style or whatever, just adjust it to whatever your torque spec is. Mine is 90 foot-pounds, and so I'm just gonna torque these down in a star pattern, and you might actually be able to hear the clicking as it gets to 90 foot-pounds. And when you're torquing stuff, you want to do it in one solid movement. You don't want to just jerk down on it. So if you're getting too low and you need more room to maneuver, just pull it back up and then slowly push down. And then what I like to do is with lug nuts, or at least what you should do with about anything that you need to torque down, is go over it again. Make sure you got everything and you all got the same torque, just to be safe. Like, there's one saying my dad always tells us, and you've probably heard it too from other people, is measure twice, cut once. Meaning basically check multiple times and then do it once, and so you don't have to come back and do it again. And that's pretty much how to install your tires on either your Audi or any vehicle that most likely would use a lug stud, or not a lug stud, a lug bolt type of a deal. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, whatever.